summary statements have been made. Michael made his brilliant summation. Then the EPA made their summation, which was kind of, from their perspective, it must have been horrible for the EPA lawyer, because the judge gave her the third degree. I mean, it was a cross-examination of a lawyer during summation, which was pretty hard to watch. But basically, he immediately came in and said a couple of things which, from our point of view, suggested that if we hadn't won the case, we were darn close to winning the case. First of all, he said, there's no question, is there, that it's a hazard? You're not suggesting for one moment that it's not a neurotoxic hazard. Well, of course, the EPA was suggesting that at one point, at least. Number two, nor is it clear that both sides recognize that these studies from Mexico City and Canada are very high quality, the highest quality studies. So that was two strikes for us. And then he dropped the other shoe and said, I think the EPA is using the wrong standard. In other words, the exponent lawyers had tried to make the issue that you had to prove, that you had to absolutely prove cause and effect. Well, no epidemiological study can actually prove cause and effect. So it was all about causation, and then using this systematic review to buttress the notion of that we hadn't reached this level of evidence that it was cause and effect. The judge said that's the wrong standard. So you don't have to prove causation. You only have to show that it's an unreasonable risk. And that is what he is going to now, in my view, make his judgment on. Is it an unreasonable risk? He says it's a hazard, and fluoride is neurotoxic. Is it neurotoxic at the levels at which people are exposed to in fluoridated communities? And that is yes, if you believe the high quality studies from Mexico City and Canada. The answer to that is yes, this effect is taking place at the levels at which children are exposed in fluoridated communities. And the third issue, is it an unreasonable risk? And that is really what the judge is going to be about. He's going to be looking at all those studies again, the 10 studies that Exponent actually pulled out and said, these are the 10 studies. You'll look at each of those studies and do a weight of evidence. And as far as an unreasonable risk, the judge has to consider, do you really have to add fluoride to the water? Aren't there other ways you could do this? Even if you believe fluoride works, I mean, even the proponents of fluoridation recognize that most of the benefit is topical. Fluoride works on the outside of the teeth. There's very little evidence, convincing evidence, that it works from inside the body, that you have to ingest fluoride. So if it works topically, and topical applications are universally available in the form of fluoridated toothpaste, then why should you take the risk of exposing all these fetuses and infants to fluoride, which is inevitable once you put it in the water? So I think the judge, the court, indicated that we won stage one. We won stage one. Whether or not the final ruling will come down in our favor, we all have to wait and see.